Welcome to the Style and Grace podcast. Maintaining mental health and tackling real life issues. Honesty and compassion. Where style meets substance and grace meets real life experiences.
Hey, y'all. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Style and Grace podcast. I'm your host, Whitney Victoria, and Happy New Year. Happy 2026. We made it. We made it out of one year and into another. And I just want to say I am grateful. I am so glad that you're here with me today. So if you're listening, that means God still has a purpose for you and your life. And that alone is worth praising the Lord for. Okay. I want to start this year off with a word that really blessed me, something that challenged me, but it also encouraged me and honestly shifted my perspective going into this new season. So my friend Tiffany, shout out to Tiffany, she was telling us in our group chat about her New Year's Eve service that she attended, and she was sharing her notes. And when I tell you, the two notes that she did give us, it spoke to me, okay? One of the notes she said was, the enemy only attacks reveal purpose. And if you've been under pressure, if you felt resistance, if you felt heavy, it might not be because you're doing something wrong. It might be because you're doing something right. And the second point she shared was, most of the time, the access isn't denied, it's unclaimed. Open your mouth and claim it. And I was like, oh, girl, that is good. So a few days later, I'm getting ready in the bathroom, and I said, you know what? I need to go back and hear the message that Tiffany talked about for myself. So shout out to the Brook Church, Columbia, Bishop Moultrie for this powerful New Year's Eve message. And Bishop Moultrie preached from 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. But he started off with Ephesians chapter 3, verses 20. So I'm going to read that to you, right? So this is Ephesians 3, chapter 20. And this is the NIV version. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. Okay. And then we went into 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 1 through 7. So let me set the scene for you. There was a woman, she was a widow, her husband died and had left behind debt, and the creditors were coming, not just for money, but to take her sons into slavery as payment. She was desperate, she was afraid, and she was out of options. So she went to the prophet Elisha, believing that he could intercede with God on her behalf for a miraculous solution. And Elijah asked her a powerful question. He said, what do you have in your house? And she said, nothing except a small jar of oil, just a little oil. I want to put emphasis on just a little oil. And then Elijah told her to do something that didn't make sense in the natural. He said, go borrow empty jars from all of your neighbors, not just a few. Then go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons, and pour the oil you have into those jars. And here's the miracle. Y'all, as she poured, the oil kept flowing, jar after jar, container after container. The oil didn't stop until there were no more empty jars. She had more than enough, not only to pay off her debt, but to live on. And this is where Bishop Moultrie says something that really stuck out to me. After the woman paid her debts, he said, don't live off of the oil you gave, don't live off of the oil that you gave, live on it. You got to live on the oil. In other words, this wasn't a one-time blessing. This was provision for continuity. So there will be no more lack. And the revelation was she already had what she needed. She had the oil, but she still had to show up. She still had to ask. She still had to go get the jars. And that's where I want to pause right there. And as I'm talking to y'all, I'm talking to me too. So many of us are praying for God to drop something from the sky. Or God, when is this going to happen? Lord, I need this. Lord, 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 Lord. When he's saying use what's already in your house, the gifting you have, the idea you keep sitting on, the business you keep delaying, the book you keep postponing, the healing you haven't opened your mouth to ask for. Access isn't denied, it is unclaimed. And going into 2026, I really want us to ask ourselves, what oil do I already have? What gifts have I been minimizing? What resources am I overlooking because they seem too small? God didn't multiply her oil until she started pouring. Okay? God did not multiply her oil until she started pouring. And faith requires movement. We all know the saying, faith without works is dead. And notice she had to borrow the jars. That means she had to ask. She had to humble herself. She had to believe that what she had was enough to fill what she borrowed. Oh my, y'all. She had to believe that what she had was enough to fill what she borrowed. Some of us won't experience overflow because we haven't made room for it. No jars, no overflow. And I believe that God is really saying in the season, prepare for what you've been praying for. And so as we tap into this new year, my prayer for you and for me and for those that are connected to me is that we stop underestimating what God has already placed in our hands. We have the oil, we have the purpose, we have the access. You got to open your mouth. You've got to claim it. You've got to pour. And when you do, God will meet you there. And I know sometimes because I have to work on this. I have a problem sometimes with asking for help. I have because it, and you know what? It's probably a sense of pride, definitely a sense of pride. But baby, that pride has to die down. I was in a situation last week, and I was like, Lord, I want this to go right. I want this to go right. And after I listened to the message, Bishop was like, "So the answers are right there. You have to ask the people that God have placed in your life." And I was like, Lord, okay. So I asked and I was able to get the help that I needed. I had to put pride aside. I had to put that, oh, well, what if they think this about me? That goes out the door because God will give you provision. And like I said, God will meet you there when you do what you are supposed to do. So happy new year, y'all, and happy 2026. And I pray that you use your oil. Y'all, I am going to put the sermon in the show notes because I really want y'all to hear what Bishop Moultrie said because he had some other points as well. This just stood out to me. But use your oil. Your access is not unclaimed, okay? You can do this. Happy 2026, y'all. I'm excited. The Grace Gathering is happening this Saturday. So ticket registration closes today. So you have until tonight at 11:59. After that, I have to close the registration. Thank you to every sponsor. Thank you to the vendors. Thank you to everyone who donated. It means more than you know. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I'm a little nervous. I'm anxious. I'm feeling all the feels, but I do know that this is going to be something good. Again, it's just not an event. This is an experience, and I can't thank you all enough for supporting this vision, supporting the Style and Grace podcast, the DMs, the messages, or when I see people in person, I'm like, girl, that episode really spoke to me. Again, it just lets me know that it's not in vain. And I'm grateful. I really, really am. And I hope to see you all at the Grace Gathering. So here is where style meets substance and grace meets real life experiences. Until next time, I love y'all. I'll be back soon with a recap of the Grace Gathering.